Good morning. It is Thursday, and once again, I am not saying happy Thursday because just want to give some real talk this morning about the really sad news of another business that has been a light in our community, contributing to the life of the business improvement area and just putting on events in so many ways. Kinga and Doug, the owners of Pyra the Polish Potato, along with their mom, Elizabeth, who all of them have just been a joy to get to know. They put out a public statement that they are closing their doors. Obviously, this is the second kind of major closing of kind of an establishment, an institution in our community in the span of a week. Lana Sarah Hall last week announced that they are closing their operations, which is, of course, an independent living seniors home. And this really hits hard. And so today, I just thought, I really just sat with the news for about an hour and thought, as a mayoral candidate, not just a resident who's heartbroken about this and somebody who really, really enjoyed the family and appreciated the family who ran the business, is there something the municipality could have done? So I read this statement that the owners put out about their closing, and they attribute it to three real reasons why. The first one was soaring costs of hydro. NB Power, as we know, it really is out of control to crisis proportions. I've heard some people say, well, it's still among the lowest rates in Canada. Yeah, the problem is, though, when you raise rates this quickly, when something costs an amount, you get used to that amount being the baseline, right? And so when you see rates rising 30, 40%, 50% in some cases over the last few years, depending on how far you go back, that's devastating to homeowners. I'll be frank with you, my 2,400 square foot, over 100-year-old home, it costs me almost $500 in equalized payments to, keep the lights on for my family of four, keep the house warm, although I am kind of cold right now because I have heat pumps and keep things down. But the cost of energy is huge. And when you have a business that requires refrigeration and freezing and things like that, it really is a runaway cost on a business that I could see. And so, in terms of municipalities, I was looking at the Union of Municipalities of New Brunswick, which is a very important voice that our municipality and the vast majority of municipalities in New Brunswick are a part of. And we need to be constantly advocating for residents and businesses to NB Power. And it's in the news right now, reviews about the rising rates and things like that. So sometimes we feel powerless about that because that's a provincial, crown corporation that really does start to feel like gouging, and this affected the business. The other thing was rising rents in the statement. There was kind of an allegation of greed and how, when you have a business, if you're renting that space, the landlord decides to raise the rates and you have no other way to hold the line on those costs. And what I mean by that is I'm thinking if you own your building, obviously you can renegotiate a mortgage. If you have a building with apartments above, then typically this is how businesses weather the storm of rising costs is, those residential units above the businesses typically supplement and allow the business to almost even just break even. But again, you have to own your building. So when you rent a space, the landlord can just raise your rent. And I have heard multiple businesses in the downtown area who are being forced out. And of course, this is a case of landlords, owners of buildings, passing along costs to their residents. If it's a business, then, to the business owners in that space. And that it really does affect our entire community. So again, I looked into that, thinking about can a BIA, can a municipality in a BIA, business improvement area, typically a downtown of a municipality, can they impose rent controls? Quickly, no. That was just a hard no. New Brunswick cannot impose, municipalities cannot impose rent controls in New Brunswick. So that was out of the question. What about, vacancy laws, where you can bylaw somebody and affect their property taxes if the commercial space is vacant? This is done a lot with residences, like private residences. It's done less with business because of the commercial spaces, because of the give and take of, if you have somebody who wants to purchase a building and has plans for that in the future, but knows that there are going to be pretty draconian penalties if it's vacant, then that can actually stymie growth. So I'm just explaining to you the catch-22 that municipalities deal with, especially here in New Brunswick. Other provinces do allow some imposing of laws or bylaws in their business areas when they have something like a community improvement plan or things like that. But in New Brunswick, most of that kind of stuff is allowed. I'm the kind of candidate who is interested in getting in and not being stopped by, we're not allowed to do this, we're not allowed to do that. Previous administrations in municipal leadership say that all the time, and largely because it's right. But how hard do you push through those boundaries is the question. How vocal can you be? Can you pull the right threads? Can you influence the right people? It's up to you to decide in your next choice of mayor who you think can actually get through these roadblocks more effectively. But the third thing that was mentioned in the letter, so we've got rising power rates, we've got rent, which just becomes unaffordable. And it was the public safety piece. Again, it was the owners of this property saying people would come into their shop who were elevated, and the women who ran the shop did not feel safe being there alone. And it just became a piece of vulnerability, as well as drug paraphernalia and things like that around on this property that they were in charge of taking care of as part of their rent. And so that is something that, when I read that, the first two notwithstanding, we can advocate for our businesses, and we can always try to do more as municipalities when it comes to the province or an NB Power. Those are the costs of doing business, the reality of rising costs, which I own a business. Everything is going up for me as well. And you start getting into the thousands and thousands of dollars for the costs that you need to operate your business. But when it comes to the safety piece, that is something that I really think it is time, friends, for our municipality to figure this out and decide, almost like, because the council needs to listen to residents, and everyone says we support local business. There's comments under the posts this morning about, like, this town doesn't know how to protect businesses and things like that. I'm just going to quote, the current mayor, Alan McEachran, who said, and I agree with him, if cost were not an object, every single road in town would be paved right now. We'd have a police force that responds in 1 minute. You have to realize that, like, the hearts of people who are in leadership would make this happen if we just had a blank check and could. It really comes down to that $15 million pie, that budget, and saying, where do we spend what on what? And where do we take away? I talked yesterday about loss aversion. When we have something, it's difficult to say we're ending that, we're pulling the plug on that, and we're moving the money over here. So you need a mayor and council moving forward who assess the appetite and the urgency around more safety. And I really want to see plans around a community safety service, which a lot of municipalities are doing, places like St. John, who have patrols, regular patrols. And you might think like nights and weekends, but in this case, we have shop owners who are saying, no, during the day, it was actually difficult. You call the police to, move someone out of a space. The response times are all over the place. Sometimes they're really quick. And again, shout out to our RCMP officers who, largely we feel like they're doing their best, but if they're all in Macadam, then it's going to take a while for them to get down to St. Stephen to reply to a call like that, and people are not feeling safe. So I would love to see just a downtown BIA community patrol of some sort that cleans up the drug paraphernalia, because we are hearing complaints about that. I know on the day of Lydia's cleanup, thankfully, I did all of King Street and myself, and I was, asking around, did we pick up any drug paraphernalia? We did have the needle boxes. I had one with me. I don't know that a lot was located, but there are certain hot spots in the downtown area, and this business owner did say on that corner, they did find it. And so when we identify hotspots, and if we had community patrols, we could increase the response time. When you have a shop owner who's in there and who's female, and maybe some people come in who are elevated, that's the word she used, let's say under the influence of substance maybe, or having difficulty modulating emotions, what if we could call right away a number and have that kind of downtown BIA patrol right there? And respond quickly to move people along. And typically community safety services like this, these kind of officers don't have arresting powers or anything like that, but they go a long way to helping people feel safe. We're not safe until we feel safe. And if you knew you could call somebody to help in an issue like that, to move somebody along or connect them to the mental health and addiction services, which of course are woefully lacking, but a business owner, and I've said this before, a business owner should not be responsible for enforcing the safety of the environment outside their shop door. And if somebody were to come in even and impinge on that, then they should know that they can get a quick response. So this really is on us. If I'm a mayoral candidate that says, I'm going to fix that, and well, that means, again, we're growing our tax base as much as we can, but if you don't want your tax rate to go up, then that kind of investment needs to come from somewhere else, or we need to find the funding from somewhere else, maybe a federal program, maybe a provincial program. We got to put our heads together around how to fund. I'm thinking, $150,000 a year, which is quite modest or a lot, depending on your point of view, to have a patrol. Maybe it's on foot, maybe it's on bikes. But some kind of trained patrol where there can be some sort of response, and just a lot of time the visibility of those folks really goes a long way. That's what I'm seeing in other municipalities who are trying to crack this nut as well. We're not in this alone, but where we are alone is it taking so long to take action, and that's one thing I'd like to see change. So I have a really heavy heart today because I loved this business, and of course love the family who run it. And there's some things that, of course, I know you're tired of hearing your municipal officials say, well, there's not much we can do about that. I think we need to advocate and pressure and bring these human stories to places like NB Power or the province, and even to people who we know are owners of buildings. But of course, a lot of times the owners of those buildings say, look at how my costs have risen. I have to pass that along to the tenants. So that is a problem. But one thing that we can get to right away, my priority is housing, which increases the tax base, which increases foot traffic and activity, which allows for more customers, which allows for more safety, eyes on the street, but then also patrols that are very local, that are supported by the municipality, if that is something that we are finally at a breaking point and say, you know what, something's got to change in this department. But it does actually take funding or finding the funding to make that happen. But I am sensing that this is reaching a breaking point, and that is what we want for the businesses and for an active community downtown right here where we live, to make it safe and to make it affordable and to make it a place where we actually want to congregate and enjoy, and create the environment where businesses can do their work and bring the good things that they want to bring to our community. All right, that's it for today. Again, that can't be solved. This problem cannot be solved in 13 and change minutes. But I just want to say thank you once again to all our business owners who are hanging on, and we really can improve in this department, and that is something that I definitely want to start looking towards as your mayor. As we build up ststephen.ca, buildupststephen.ca, you can check out my website for more about me, my commitments, my priorities, and this is one of the top ones, and so that's why I wanted to bring that today. Tomorrow, I'll talk about airports, which is, a review of yesterday's council meeting. That's what I intended to do today, but things happen in the community, and as your mayor, I will be here making statements, guiding us through this, and talking about the action plan to bring us forward to improve our community and make it better and as good as it can be. All right, cheers. See you tomorrow.